cosmic kinfolk. It's been a hot minute. Well, I come to you today because I have a pretty dope reveal I want to do on some of the occult messages that I found in watching the new cult phenomenon TV show, Squid Game. Alright? Now, I'm not using visual aids. I'm not giving you all that in-depth, YouTube-esque flair. But just listen to me for the next half hour, if it takes that long to kind of get through some of the great messages that I saw in the Squid Game. So, I'm just going to do a spiritual breakdown from my third eye downloads, my breadth of knowledge, and kind of like put it all together into something that hopefully expands the consciousness and the intellect and the spiritual insight of somebody else out there. So first, let's give a shout out to the director. I cannot pronounce his name correctly. Director and writer, because the genius that went into creating a compelling story like this that hits so many key points from our normal day-to-day societies that we have now, with gambling issues, drug issues, divorce issues, stepdaughter issues, all that stuff. But let me just kind of jump right in and let's go ahead and let's talk about the opening of the Squid Game. The explanation of the Squid Game is the first thing they drop in our laps. Like, hey, here you go. We're going to teach you a new game, just like you were a kid on the playground, and hope you can play along with us on the first try. It's not a kid game if you can't learn it very quickly. That's the thing I love about the irony of what kind of challenge these adults were put through in the movie. They were made to play games that are simple to learn and simple to execute if you just have the creativity of a kid. So they explained how it was played, how you have to get to the head of the squid. So the board is set up very, very intriguingly in a pattern of the square, circles, and triangles to create the Squid Game board, right? Your goal is to get to the head, though. So you start at the very end of the squid's body, which would be where the tentacles are, the fatty part, and you have to make it all the way to the tip in the back of the squid. Now, the eyes are in the middle of a squid's body, so I think they put two platforms there, where they draw the rectangles that cross between the body to represent the eye of the squid, and you can cross through the eye of the squid if you are on offense to gain the ability to stop jumping on one foot. So your rule is, if you're on offense, you have to jump on one foot, trying to make it to the head of the squid. If you're on defense, you can use both feet. Defense stays inside the boundaries of the squid. Offense can't come inside the boundaries unless they cross through the eyes of the squid. Okay? So the game is pretty simple there. Once you reach the head, you have to put one foot in or something and scream, "I am the victorious one," or whatever. All that messaging in the Squid Game, or in the Squid Game itself, that they intro us with, is body science. And I loved how deep it got with that quick little breakdown of where you see the handicap given to offense is to keep them from being, their full self, while the people in defense can always be their full self until someone crosses the eyes. And once they cross those eyes, they gain Inspector Royale title. Now, what is an Inspector Royale? It's like a Christ consciousness. It's like the dragon. It's the Kundalini high. It's the ability to devour your opponents now. You're free to move. So welcome to freedom in the game. That's a quick little breakdown of the science in the game, and I loved the fact that it was just really so simple, but yet so complex. But still, same note, it's a violent game. It's not like just a kid's game. It's pushing, shoving, it's hitting hard to keep someone out of the squid head. I mean, it's an all-out physical game. This is not a joke. You know, lots of games that kids play are physical games. Like, come on, if you ever played dodgeball, you know, you get hit with that rubber ball. There were some kids I know that would break out in tears back in the day in elementary school, so no faking. So the title of Squid Game would come on every episode, and I remember looking at this circle, the triangle, and the square and going, wow, they keep repeating this. Well, it was also repeated on the masks of the assistants in the red hoods and red shirts and pants, right? They had the circle to represent one rank, the square to represent one rank, and the triangle to represent another rank. Well, those are, again, pieces of a dope puzzle that he was putting together visually, the director, leading you to the Squid Game, because the Squid Game is made of those shapes. So that's what those shapes really represent. They represent the individual pieces of the Squid Game being hinted at early on as the final game for the players inside the world. Now, not for us, because we knew what Squid Game was, and we knew it was intro, so we had a good feeling if you were watching this that was what would be the last game. Your mystery as the viewer was, can you figure out what the other 4 games are along with them? You know, that was the intriguing part, the mystery, right? But that circle represented the wholeness of the games. The square represented the balance of the games, and the triangle equaled the equality of the games. Remember, they said everybody in here is equal. You're equal to die. You're equal to play. You're equal to make that money. But you gotta win this rat race game, right? That's what society puts us through, that rat race game, where you can live, you can die, but you really actually can't even choose to opt out like they could in this game. You can't opt out of that. Okay? So there was a symbolism that the director was really trying to get off, because you have to pay attention to environments. Let's break down the environments in Squid Game. So you have gamblers, you have mothers, you have sisters and brothers, you have the self-loathing, you have this big compound where everybody gets dropped into after they wake up from being drugged, and you have the numbers games, always playing with numbers. There's always something to do with numbers. So let's go ahead and break down like the gamblers. What is a gamblers? There was under the gamblers, there was thugs, there were debt owers, there were debtors, there were horse races, there were pickpockets, there was money exchanging, and there was like the underground vibe, you know, of street smarts. For the mothers and the friends, the feminine side of that, there was that woman's love, that motherly love that moms give to sons and daughters and their children, even if they have in some way not lived up to their standard as they raised them to be. So our main character, 001, I'll name him in a minute, he's like, you know, the gambler who just really wants to hit it big so that he can get out of debt and pay his mother and his daughter's future forward, you know what I mean? Then that's like part of his matrices he's got to solve. He's in a matrix trying to solve a problem of escaping the debt he's got into, and now under his mother's debt as well. And it's a lot of pride versus doubt, you know what I mean? Let's go ahead and analyze his friend from school that played the Squid Game with him in the very beginning. His mother has a lot of pride for her son because he went to school for business, he got all that special degree knowledge and put it to use into gambling as well, and got himself in big debt. But her pride wouldn't let her see that he could potentially have the same issues as his friend from school, who did not go through all of that amazing schooling to learn business, but still had the same issues of running into big debt. Because the second son, the one who was, I think he was player 021, I don't remember, I'll look through my notes here in a minute, but he was a successful son in his mother's eyes, while the other son was a failure in his mother's eyes, because one gambled on high stakes business, the other gambled on petty wages. So you have your Cain and Abel. Okay, you have your Cain, whose sacrifice wasn't looked at as favorable by God because it was of the wrong kind of sacrifice. And that's kind of what's going on here. But there are two sacrifices, right? These two guys are giving up something to be in that much debt. And then there's that self-loathing test. In the environment, they were testing everybody to see how much self-loathing they'd have. Could you withstand pain? Could you beat yourself up? I mean, do you remember 001 goes through the test that I'm sure everybody had gone through with that suited gentleman in the subway system, where you drop the red square trying to flip over the blue square, and the blue square drops on trying to flip over the red square. Well, interesting enough, that was a test of how deep is your self-loathing. Are you willing to slap yourself? Are you willing to be slapped? Are you willing to be hurt and accept pain for your debt? So that test was a way of initiating everybody who'd be playing the games, making sure they were a good fit, because you'd only be invited if you probably passed that test. How far can you withstand pain for money? Now let's get to the compound environment. It was on an island, right? Already it was setting it up so that there was no escape. There's no escaping this game. Even if they let you go free, there's no escaping this game. You're surrounded by water on all sides. There's no escaping the capitalism game. You're surrounded by the trappings on all sides. You must get involved in it to be free in a capitalistic society. If you don't, you go into debt. And actually, debt is a part of the capitalist society, so you have to learn how to play with debt, right? So there's part of their compound environment, that isolation. There's the hidden messages on the walls. There's, unbeknownst to us, when they first wake up from their slumber, the very first day, when 465 meets 001. And I think I've been reversing that, actually. I've been meaning to say 456 for 001 earlier. When 456, our main guy, when he gets into the compound, wakes up that very first day, and you kind of watch the environment and you go, wow, there's a lot of people in there, right? That's really what my whole shocking thing was. What 456 people really look like in a small little environment. All those beds stacked upon each other. It was like a slave ship. It was reminiscent of not really what slaves went through, because they actually lay right on top of each other. They didn't have beds or anything, but it was the slave ship theory. Enslave their minds, and next you can enslave their bodies. So even in that environment, when you first meet 456, he meets 001, the super god of this game. And that's the beginning of the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. That's one of the very fun references that's interwoven into this whole scheme, is that the first shall be last and the last shall be first. So they started breaking people's sleep as well in there, to make sure that they were broken into that mind state I was trying to show you, because there was food deprivation. They were given less and less food eventually, till the point when you get to the steak dinner, you know what I mean? And you just remember how they were led into the games. It was multiple stairwells to confuse the mind, to keep the mind separate, to not let them know any one direction that they must go. Multiple choices to get to the same path. To get to the same game. Multiple choices to get to the same game. Then there's the numbers games. I mean, you meet player 456 when he meets 001 in a new light. You see him as now this guy who you're rooting for, because he's got a good heart. You can sense that from the very first opening. And it's, again, this reference to the first shall be last and the last shall be first in the spiritual context of Christianity, that it's a dogma that's about to be broken and then rewritten and then redone and then put back together, because it's I think the director's real gift here was taking all these things of a spiritual dogma system and a money dogma system and giving them a context of choice. Do you really want to be a part of that? Do you really see what you're doing from like your outside lenses, like with people looking from the out, like looking at yourself from the outside in, and not judging yourself, but in the same note, realizing that you are living a life based on things that were presented to you, and you made the choice to either do it or not. So there's kind of like, I don't know, that choice element and chance element that he's really trying to drive home to spiritual people, to religious people. Like, you have a choice to be in sin, supposedly, and you have a choice not to be in sin, right? Well, okay, before I get too deep, that's just like being binary versus analog. Because 001, the very first player, the alpha, he is the binary. He is the simplistic form of God. While 456 is the more complex version of God at the end, when it's getting ready to be rebirthed to be the 001. Okay, because it's all a cycle. That's the quick little breakdown on that part. But let's go straight into like the names here. So who 456 was I think Song Gi, and he's a gambler. But his name in Korean means success. It means success. So all you have to know if you were a Korean is this hero here will reach success based on his name, or at least that's the pun played upon his name. Then you have 067, Sebyok, the beautiful temptress, pickpocket girl. Her name means daybreak in Korean. It means the break of day. It means the start of a new day. Something fresh. And you know what she became? She became one of the closest people to winning the game. But her only reason for not winning wasn't of her own mistake. It was just happenstance, where life throws glass at you and you've got to dodge a lot of shards. And she didn't dodge them all. Then you got O El Nam. That's that old man, 001. And his name in Korean means first sun, the sunrise. Again, you got the dawn and you've got the sunrise. They played off of that wording in Korean, where American audiences were really going to catch on to that stuff. But these are the kind of like illusionary things that are woven into a great story, great storytelling. The names must mean something about the character's progression through this epic. Okay? Then you have Jang Do-suk. No, Deok-suk. Jang Dok-suk, I think is how you really say it. But that's 101, player 101, who's the businessman. I'm sorry, 101, who's the gangster, who was that thug guy who... Wait a minute, did I get that right? Yes. No, I forgot him in my notes. Oh, wow. So, yeah, the gangster guy is kind of dope because his name means virtue and morality in Korean, but yet he shows none of those character traits. He is the deepest dogger in this whole place, this whole compound. He's the dog. He's the king dog. He's the alpha dog. But at the same note, he has no virtue and no moral standing to stand on, right? But that's what his name meant. And he's also a binary. He's also a 101, which means he's like stuck in between the binary numbers of being the alpha and the omega. So he's kind of like the combination of the beginning and the end. The last shall be first and the first shall be last. He's like the wholeness of what that really is. It's actually 11 o'clock. But then you have Abdul Ali. I'm skipping over the businessman because I forgot to put him in my notes. Let's go straight to Abdul Ali. He's player 199. And his name means servant of the Most High, right? So if you kind of look at context of what he did in the entire episodes, he's serving everybody. He's doing his best to get home. So he's gifted some things by the business guy, you know, money to get a bus ticket. But when he's back in the games, he's serving. He's there to help. He really wants to add on. He's doing his best to be of the kind of mind state Allah in his religion asks for. Then you have Minya O. Now, she was player 212. Notice her off play against 101 when they go in like in play fight, pretend that they hate each other, but then they end up having, you know, crazy sex in the bathroom. Their numbers, if you add them together, you got 313. Anyway, that's a whole other mathematical situation going on. When you add those two numbers together, you get 313. So that's the marriage of a man and a woman being, and both of them being alpha, okay, in their state of being here in the compound, reaching that alpha status. They combine their alpha status, thinking that would help them win. But she's a survivalist. That's what she did. Now let's get into the games. Red light, green light. Obey the woman to stay safe. Yeah. You better obey that little blue-eyed bitch with her googly eyes so she don't shoot you. She said stop. But either way, if you didn't know how to play that game, you were automatically dead. They were going to weed out all the people that just had no youthfulness to them. Because the game, red light, green light, is so easy to win. You could, look, for one, they gave them a timer. All you had to do is reach the end of the destination by the end of the timer. I mean, in strategy, let's not add on to like destroy what they did in the movie, but in strategy, you would have just had to walk at a good pace, not run, walk. Red light, green light. In between the green lights, walk at a slow pace. And you would have gotten to the destination like the old man did. But he knew the game already, right? Cheater. So, red light, green light is a metaphor in life for, can you follow the signs and walk that path? Or do you run that path and almost destroy yourself? Or do you run away from that path and destroy yourself? It's the first test. So, next game was the honeycomb shapes. You had the umbrella shape, which was the protection from water. You had the star shape, which was a solar luminary. You had the circle shape, which was, you know, a common shape in nature. Circles appear everywhere. Rocks become circles. Mineral deposits become circles. Circles exist on the planet. The planet is a circle, even though it's not a perfect circle. The sun is a circle. Circles are everywhere in nature. Then you've got the square, which is also a common shape found in the industrial world, because you need those notches in the square to help turn gears, you know what I mean? And bolts and all that kind of stuff. So nuts and bolts are very much of that nature. And you had, at this point, to make a choice. Were you going to choose to protect yourself from the storm, but be in a bigger storm by just having such a delicate shape to cut out of the honeycomb, being the umbrella? Or you could have chosen the square, which is the industrial shape, but it's not as hard to pop out. Probably the easiest one of them all. If I were the old man in that game, I would have chosen the square, but he chose the star. But either way, just less of a chance of you breaking it. So the umbrella's fragile. Everything else in between was robust, powerful shapes. I don't know why people lost at that game, but that's me judging people anyway. But my favorite game comes when Tug of War shows up. Now, Tug of War is a great metaphor in life for everything, because you've got opposition, you got ops against ops. No one's a good guy or the bad guy here. It's op against op, right? So you have in tug of war the ability to use brute strength and or use a strategy. Well, brains win war, not brute strength. And that's a metaphor in a way versus rich versus poor, because you find out that poor people might have more brains than rich people, and the tug of war that the poor are trying to do is get the money away from the rich. And the same note is that the rich want to be richer, so they're working their asses off to also get the money from the poor and keep it in their side. It's also a strong versus weak metaphor, women versus men metaphor, where even in the game choosing, they said choose 10 people on your team. Everybody wanted to have only guys. They knew for some reason to choose guys for a game that might involve such big teams, because guys have strength, natural strength, and women are built with not as much natural strength. But at that same note, they're built with enough character of power to add on to the strength chain, and maybe even have the wisdom they possess in themselves to add on to the mental chain. So tug of war here was a very good construct for another generalization of society, because you want to make sure you have real brains on your side when you enter the game of tug of war. Okay, because if you just lean back, hold the position like our antagonist did there, told his whole team lean back. I'm sorry, but 001 told the whole team, look, I've seen tug of war when I was a kid. Just lean back, let the other team tire themselves out, and then you go for it, right? Well, that's a dope strategy. And then you have the intellect who says, well, now that we haven't tired them completely out, why don't we just release them to use their own kinetic energy and then pull them back against their own fall, right? So there's a strategy there in war where you can let people first and foremost tire themselves out and then go right back at fighting them. And then when you find out that because of their strength that they've still reserved, that you should just let them go, let them hit you, let them hit with all their strength, but make them miss so that they're off balance and you can pull them in. Very good game. I loved the tug of war. It was actually my favorite. But then Marbles comes along, and it's really, truthfully, the most heartbreaking moment in the entire series, because if we hadn't been given the reveal yet of 001 and who he really was, so we're watching all these characters have to partner up and play a game of marbles. Well, they will, if you lose all your marbles, you die. In context, when people say you lose all your marbles, that means you've gone crazy. Well, here they wanted you to go crazy. They wanted you to go crazy because you probably chose somebody you like now, having formed bonds in this compound, and they knew that was going to happen. Now, it's freaky because you can go through all the different characters that had to partner up and watch, Abdul and the businessman have the biggest betrayal of everybody in there, where that businessman chose thievery again over friendship, which is truthfully just it's the anti-principle of Giyok, or whatever the old man called it. It's the anti-principle to that. You don't do that to lifelong friends. You do not choose money over them. At that point, I would have brought everybody around like, yo, this is probably the best time to, like, in this game, because right now, homeboy's about to sacrifice his wife, homegirl is about to sacrifice a cool friend she just made, I'm about to sacrifice an old man, and the businessman's about to sacrifice a freaking, servant, a helper. Do we really think this is money? Like, is money worth that? But they went ahead with it because money is the root of everybody's need to get free in that world. So, the marbles game, if you weren't hurt by the fact that you thought the old man died, it was actually there let me reveal that I knew that something was amiss with the old man. I was like, that old man didn't die. I'm like, the camera's cut away too soon. You didn't even see him get shot in the head. Everybody else gets it on camera except for the old man. I said, he's not dead. And I didn't know why. I was just like, he's not dead. You know what I mean? But then to see how the businessman really tricked Abdul, it broke me. I'm like, this dude is stupid. Like, give that man a fair chance. You do not make something unfair to people. But the lesson here is to watch people who like to make things unfair to people, and how they'll be generous at one point, but then they really totally are unfair in the next moment. Lacking any type of real empathy. Really. Just being very robotic, very mechanical about their survival. Going crazy. That's the definition of crazy. When you lack that kind of, I think, understanding of soul beings, flesh beings, and soul beings, and you just are out for self in a way where even when you're giving, you're out for self because it just makes you feel better about yourself. Done. But the game that gave everybody the most shivers, I think, was the glass bridge. Because as we're coming into a conclusion here, the glass bridge was, again, the first shall be last metaphor, smack dab in your face. Now, if you recall, at one point he had on 001's number. He had taken his jacket because the jacket that he wrapped around the old man's waist got bloodied and peed on, so the old man had given him his jacket. So again, now the last was first, was 001. But waits to choose from the numbers 1 to 16 of these jerseys so that he can kind of see what goes on, because she's not sure. He's just not very sure this time. But the only numbers that are left when he's ready to make his choice are the first and the last. But he's already a first and a last. I think this is the culmination of the director saying, look, we've already tested that the first should be last. Do they deserve to be first? So we've already tested the last, and now that we know they deserve to be first, we'll put them back into the last position to be safe. Because the safest position here is for the first to be last. So again, it's a cycle. And that cycle, if you know how to escape being in the head of something too soon, you can help yourself with your luckiness towards success, which is what 456's name meant, success. Now, the firstborn as well is a metaphor here, because that guy he talks to wants to be the firstborn for once. He wants to be the firstborn in that leadership role, and doesn't realize that's not choosing wisely, just based on his own emotional state. He didn't choose wisely. But firstborns usually get all the privileges of earning, father's inheritance and given, royalty in the family. But in this case, that was not what you would want to be. So Glass Bridge also kind of like plays on the hidden pitfalls on the road to success. Because on the road to success, you don't know when you take that next leap of faith, is it gonna hold? Because it might not hold up. It might let you down and let you fall. And in this case, that was your death. But if you hit the right kind of glass, you'd survive. But you have a 50-50 chance with every step forward. There's no escaping that. Only until you see a master, and they eliminated everybody else very brutally. I liked that whole tension moment. But the last master to step there could actually see what tempered glass's refractive rate was from light, and go like, look, I used to make glass, so I can tell the difference. And that's kind of like, a shaman's path. Like, eventually you can tell the difference between something that is going to destroy you and something that is going to hold you up and give you a lesson along the way. So they eventually had to turn off the lights. This master's lights got turned out. So that represented, a dimming of the light of the master's eye, so that he could no longer use that eye to help the rest of the team. And of course, selfishness comes into the choice that keeps the master from even helping himself across completely, because time was running out and no one had faith. Like the person behind him, our crazy businessman, didn't have faith that he could do it in time. But 3 was the lucky number they ended with. They ended with the lucky number 3, the triangle. The knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding to complete the game. And they were then treated, after all that explosion, because remember, I forgot, that explosion happens, the glass gets, thrown everywhere to destroy the bridge, and the poor girl gets hit in the side, and you knew it. We all saw it. But then they're told to dress themselves for a beautiful dinner, right? And that Last Supper they have, again, he's playing off of the Bible. Who was Jesus in this Last Supper? Can you think about that? Who was the Christ consciousness in the Last Supper? If you guessed our girl, then you got it right. Because she was not to be a part of the final games. And her sacrifice, in a way, saves 4, 5, 6, so that he can continue the battle against this stark snake who pretends to be a dragon but really crawls on his belly. Now, with that said, let's get into after the Last Supper, the Squid Game. Squid Game, and I'm going to sum it up very quickly, was about fake friends choose money over life. Fake friends choose a game of speed and cunning over a pace that allows for the whole team to win. Fake friends are the Squid Game. The Squid Game is not your friend. That is the lesson in this whole game. In this whole game, the environment of the Squid Game is not your friend. Don't get caught in the Squid Game. Don't get caught in the tentacles of the squid. Squid swim backwards, by the way, so their head is really their tail. The head of a squid is really its tail, swimming backwards so that it can move more aerodynamically through the water. But in reality, its tentacles have to reach forward to catch prey. So you're going in the wrong direction if you're playing the Squid Game. You want to be swimming forward and have very good fluid motion through the water. I think the last thing I want to break down are the symbolisms of the masks. And let's just do it real quick. You had the servants. You had the guy with the iron mask, who turns out to be the cop who makes it to the island's brother. And all this time, his role has been to destroy these people's lives for the betterment of the VIPs. So the VIPs can enjoy what these people enjoyed in their lower state, in the lower class, but now the higher class can play with them as if they were just livestock and animals as well. So the iron face is the control of that. But then you have the circle faces, the square faces, and the triangle faces, all in their hierarchy, right? But at the end of the day, it really just came down to that they were part of the Squid Game. They were this, because you see their dynamics are, some of them have betrayed even the structure of the game, the rigidness of the game, and are harvesting organs. So they are also, again, like I said, anti-moving forward, squidding the game. Anyway, VIPs were the beasts from the Bible. The beasts. Beware of the mark on these beasts. Because you've got a deer, you've got a lion, you've got a tiger, you've got a ram, you've got a bear, you've got the cunning fox. A fox, to me, is the most shy, aggressive animal you'll ever meet. And even in the Bible, they say have the cunning of a fox. Well, who's wearing the fox mask? Can you remember? Can you recall? was wearing the fox mask, you'll see what this overarching picture of the VIPs was really about. It was about taking and never adding on. And finally the fox got tired of taking and not adding on, and wanted to partake in the games to add on. And that's the changing of the fox. The fox needed to shed its coat, shed this pain of having led a lot of people to their demise for the enjoyment of upper class people. So on that note, enjoy my quick little breakdown. If you made it all the way to the end here, give yourself a pat on the back, but please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, because I like dropping deeper information, and the more people that are here, maybe you'll comment and make me have a topic you want to hear me break down, because you've never heard stuff in this kind of context before and it kind of intrigues you. So have a great one. Peace.